Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're gonna untangle this thing called PFMEA,
Oh yeah,
or process failure mode and effects analysis. I know it sounds intimidating,
it does it.
but trust me, by the end of this, you'll see how fascinating and surprisingly relevant it can be.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some really interesting research and case studies to explore, so let's jump right in.
Yeah.
Ever wonder how companies like, say, a car manufacturer ensure their products are top-notch? Well, PFMEA plays a huge role.
Absolutely. It's all about being proactive, not reactive.
Okay, so let's unpack this acronym. What does PFMEA actually stand for, and what's the big idea behind it?
So PFMEA stands for Process Failure Mode and Effects Analysis.
Okay.
In simple terms, it's a systematic way to look at a process, identify what could potentially go wrong, assess the risks, and then figure out how to prevent those failures before they even happen.
So instead of waiting for the roof to cave in, we're checking the beams and supports beforehand.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
And the interesting thing is, PFMEA's roots are actually in the military.
Oh, wow.
Back in the 1960s, the U.S. Department of Defense developed it to ensure the reliability of their systems. Imagine the stakes during the space race.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't afford any failures.
Right.
That's how critical PFMEA was even back then.
Wow. So it had to be reliable enough for space missions. That definitely adds to the cool factor.
Mm-hmm.
But how did this military strategy make its way into other fields?
Well, in 1974, the military standardized these procedures, and that laid the foundation for PFMEA as we know it today.
Okay.
It was quickly adopted by industries like automotive and aerospace, where quality and reliability are paramount.
Right.
And as technology advanced, so did PFMEA. We're now seeing things like real-time monitoring and predictive maintenance becoming integrated.
So it's like PFMEA evolved alongside technology becoming even more powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm hooked. But how does it actually work in practice? Can you walk us through the steps involved?
Absolutely. It all starts with forming a multidisciplinary team.
Okay.
This is where you bring together people from different departments.
Yeah.
Engineering, design, quality control, even customer service.
Got it.
The idea is to get a holistic view of the process.
So like a team of experts coming together to brainstorm and anticipate potential pitfalls.
Precisely. Once you have the team, you need to establish the specific process you want to analyze.
Okay.
This involves clearly defining its boundaries and identifying the key steps involved.
So you're basically creating a blueprint of the process before looking for weak points.
Exactly. And to visualize that blueprint, the team creates a process map.
Okay.
This is a visual representation of the entire process flow, which helps identify potential bottlenecks or areas where things could go wrong.
So we have the team, the process, and the visual map. What's next?
The next step is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The team dives deep into identifying potential failure modes for each step of the process. This involves brainstorming every possible way things could go wrong. From human errors to equipment malfunctions to even external factors that could disrupt the process.
I'm guessing some failures are more critical than others. How do you differentiate between a minor glitch and a potential catastrophe?
That's where risk assessment comes in.
Okay.
Each potential failure is analyzed based on its severity.
Okay.
Or how serious the impact would be if it occurred.
Got it.
Its occurrence, which is how likely it is to happen.
Right.
And its detection.
Okay.
Meaning how easily it can be detected before it causes a major problem.
So you're not just identifying the what, but also the how bad and the how likely.
Exactly. And based on these rankings, the team calculates a risk priority number, or RPN,
Okay.
for each failure mode.
Okay.
A higher RPN signifies a more urgent need for attention. This helps prioritize which failures need to be tackled first.
Okay, so we've identified the problems, assessed their severity, and even ranked them. What happens next? Do we just jump into solutions?
Not quite. The next step is to develop preventive actions to address the highest priority failure modes. This might involve redesigning a process, implementing stricter quality control measures, providing additional training, or even changing the materials used.
So it's about putting measures in place to either prevent the failure from happening or minimize its impact if it does occur.
Exactly. But it doesn't end there.
Okay.
PFMEA is not a one-time activity. It's an ongoing process of monitoring, evaluating, and refining. The team documents everything, reviews the PFMEA regularly, and makes adjustments as needed.
It sounds like a continuous loop of improvement, constantly refining the process and preventing potential failures. So we've covered the basics of PFMEA, what it is, its origins, and how it works. But why should our listeners care? What are the real-world benefits? Let's dive into that in part 2.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
In the last part, we explored the ins and outs of Pfmea, tracing its roots from the military to modern industries. But now let's shift gears and talk about why this all matters to you. What are the real-world benefits of implementing Pfmea?
The benefits are pretty significant, and they go way beyond just the manufacturing floor. For starters, Pfmea helps enhance quality and reliability.
Okay.
This means fewer product defects, fewer recalls, and happier customers.
Fewer product failures would be a huge win for any company. That alone could save them a ton of money and headaches. But are there other tangible benefits?
Absolutely. One of the biggest benefits is cost reduction. But proactively preventing errors and reducing waste, companies can save a lot of money. A study by the American Society for Quality found that companies using Pfmea saw an average of 15% reduction in production errors.
Wow.
Which translated to millions of dollars in savings.
15%, that's a compelling statistic. So it's not just about avoiding disasters, it's about optimizing the entire process for efficiency and cost effectiveness.
Exactly. And let's not forget about risk management.
Right.
Pfmea integrates risk assessment into every step, creating a proactive approach to safety and customer satisfaction.
This all sounds very structured and systematic. Does that help with continuous improvement efforts?
Absolutely. Pfmea provides a clear roadmap for identifying areas that need improvement. By regularly reviewing and updating, the Pfmea companies can continuously fine-tune their processes and stay ahead of potential problems.
That makes sense. Having that documented process and those data points would be super helpful for any company looking to evolve and improve.
It also fosters collaboration. Pfmea brings together teams from different departments, encouraging them to share their knowledge and work together to find solutions.
Now, one thing that really caught my eye in the research was the use of Pfmea in healthcare.
Oh, yeah.
That's not something I would have expected.
It might seem surprising at first,
right?
But healthcare relies heavily on processes.
Yeah.
From diagnosing and treating patients to administering medication and even scheduling appointments.
Okay.
All of these processes can benefit from the structured approach of Pfmea.
So how is Pfmea being used in healthcare specifically? Can you give us some examples?
One key area is implementing evidence-based practices.
Yeah.
Pfmea helps identify barriers to change and facilitates the adoption of best practices. For example, a hospital in California used Pfmea to streamline their referral process for chiropractic care.
Okay.
By identifying and addressing potential bottlenecks in the process, they were able to reduce wait times for patients and improve overall satisfaction.
So they used Pfmea to make the patient experience smoother and more efficient.
Exactly. And in another case, a team of researchers used Pfmea to improve interventions for children with autism spectrum disorder.
Wow.
They were able to identify potential failure points in their intervention program and implement changes that led to better outcomes for the children.
Those are really powerful examples. It seems like Pfmea has the potential to improve outcomes across a wide range of healthcare settings.
Absolutely. And to manage these complex processes more effectively, many organizations are turning to specialized software.
That's right. In our research, we came across software like Skill Pfmea Pro. What role does software play in modern Pfmea?
Software tools like Skill Pfmea Pro have been a game changer. They provide an intuitive interface for creating and managing Pfmeas, making the entire process more efficient and user-friendly.
So instead of dealing with mountains of paperwork, teams can now collaborate and track progress digitally.
Exactly. These tools can help manage corrective actions, send reminders for reviews, and even generate reports, making it much easier to stay organized and ensure that the Pfmea is being used effectively.
It sounds like these software tools are almost like having a digital assistant for Pfmea, but just like with any tool, it's important to use them correctly. Are there any potential pitfalls or challenges when it comes to Pfmea?
That's a great question. One common mistake is confusing defect disposition with error proofing. While it's important to determine how to handle a defective part,
right,
the real focus should be on preventing that defect from occurring in the first place.
So it's not just about fixing the problem after it happens. It's about addressing the root cause and preventing it from happening again?
Precisely. Another challenge is overlooking setup or changeover errors. These are the errors that can occur during the transition between different processes or product lines.
Right.
If the analysis solely focuses on the main production process, these setup errors might be missed.
It seems like attention to detail and a comprehensive approach are essential for successful PFMEA implementation.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And another area where things can go wrong is in the risk assessment.
Okay.
If the severity occurrence and detection rankings aren't accurate, the RPN won't reflect the true risk level.
So it's like building a house on a faulty foundation.
Yeah.
If the risk assessment is flawed, the entire PFMEA could be unreliable.
That's a great analogy. And it highlights the importance of having open and honest discussions within the team to ensure everyone agrees on the rankings. Clear communication is key.
It sounds like effective collaboration and communication are crucial for navigating these potential pitfalls.
Definitely. And that brings us to another important point, training. To get the most out of PFMEA, companies need to invest in training their teams.
You wouldn't expect someone to build a house without proper training. So why would you approach PFMEA any differently?
Exactly. Training ensures that everyone understands the methodology, can identify potential failure modes accurately, and knows how to develop and implement effective preventive actions.
And with the rise of specialized software, training on those tools is becoming increasingly important as well.
Absolutely. While software can simplify the process, it's still crucial to use it correctly.
Right.
Training helps teams harness the full power of these tools and avoid common pitfalls.
We've talked about potential pitfalls and the importance of training, but what about the concern of overcomplicating things? Some people might worry that PFMEA is too time-consuming or bureaucratic. How would you address that?
That's a valid concern. PFMEA can seem daunting at first, but it's important to remember that it's a tool, and like any tool, it can be adapted to fit the specific needs of the organization.
So it's not about creating mountains of paperwork or getting bogged down in endless analysis?
Not at all. The key is to start small, focus on the most critical aspects of the process, and gradually expand the scope as needed.
So it's more of a journey than a destination? You can start with a simple PFMEA and refine it over time as you gain more experience and data.
Exactly. And don't forget the power of collaboration. By working together as a team, you can share knowledge, brainstorm solutions, and overcome challenges more effectively.
It's about fostering that culture of continuous learning and improvement. We've covered a lot of ground in this part, from the tangible benefits of PFMEA to the potential challenges and the importance of training. Now, in the final part of this deep dive, we'll explore the limitations of PFMEA and discuss why it's crucial to look beyond just the numbers. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent the last two parts really getting into the nitty-gritty of PFMEA. We've seen how it works, its incredible benefits, and even some of the challenges.
Yeah.
Now, in this final part, I think it's important to discuss something we haven't touched on yet, the limitations of PFMEA.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. PFMEA is a powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet. Right.
It can't predict every single failure mode, and relying solely on would be a mistake.
So even with a thorough PFMEA, there's still a chance that something unexpected could happen.
Absolutely. The real world is full of complexities and unknowns.
Right.
PFMEA is based on the knowledge and experience of the team involved. And there's always a possibility that something could be overlooked.
That makes sense. It relies on human input, and humans aren't perfect.
Exactly. That's why it's so crucial to see PFMEA as one piece of a larger risk management strategy.
What?
Not the entire strategy itself.
So what are some other tools or methods that can complement PFMEA and create a more robust risk management plan?
Well, there are several other risk assessment methodologies that can be used alongside PFMEA.
Okay.
One example is fault tree analysis.
Okay.
Which is great for analyzing complex systems and identifying all the possible causes of a specific failure. It helps you trace the chain of events that could lead to that failure.
So it's like working backward from a potential problem to uncover all the contributing factors.
Precisely. Another method is hazard analysis and critical control points, or HACCP.
Okay.
This is particularly useful in industries like food safety, where preventing hazards is paramount.
And how does HACCP differ from PFMEA?
HACCP focuses specifically on identifying and controlling hazards that could impact food safety.
Got it.
It's very proactive and emphasizes preventive measures at critical points in the process.
Right.
PFMEA, on the other hand, takes a broader approach
Okay.
and can be applied to any process, not just those related to food safety.
So it sounds like the best approach often involves combining different methodologies,
Yes.
depending on the industry, the specific process, and the level of risk involved.
Exactly. It's about having a diverse toolkit and knowing which tool to use for each situation.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned earlier that PFMEA isn't a one-time activity.
Right.
And it needs to be constantly reviewed and updated. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, PFMEA should be treated as a living document. The world is constantly changing. Technologies are evolving, and our understanding of risks is constantly improving. This means that our PFMEAs need to evolve as well. We need to regularly review them, incorporate new information, and adjust our preventive actions accordingly.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Right.
It requires ongoing attention and adaptation.
Precisely. And this ongoing process really highlights the importance of the people involved.
Okay.
Their expertise, their willingness to collaborate, and their commitment to continuous improvement are absolutely essential for successful PFMEA implementation.
The human element is key. You can have the most sophisticated software and the most detailed process maps, but without a dedicated and knowledgeable team, it won't be truly effective.
I couldn't agree more. The success of PFMEA hinges on that human element, the people who are actively engaged in the process, who are constantly learning, and who are committed to making things better.
And it's about looking beyond just the numbers, those RPNs we talked about earlier.
Yes. While those numbers are helpful for prioritizing risks, they don't tell the whole story.
Right.
We need to consider the context, the potential consequences of each failure mode, and the overall risk appetite of the organization.
So even if a failure mode has a low RPN, it might still warrant attention if the potential consequences are catastrophic, even if the likelihood of it happening is low.
Exactly. It's about using those numbers as a guide, but not letting them dictate our every decision. We need to think critically, consider all the factors, and make informed decisions based on the best available information.
That brings us to a question for our listeners to consider. How can you apply the principles of PFMEA in your own work, or even in your personal life?
That's a great question. And it's something I encourage everyone to think about. While we've been discussing PFMEA in the context of industries, the core principles, anticipating problems, assessing risks, and taking preventive actions, can be applied to almost any situation.
So whether you're planning a big project at work, organizing an event, or even making a major life decision, those principles can be incredibly helpful.
Absolutely. Think about a recent project you worked on. What were some potential roadblocks you encountered? Could applying PFMEA principles have helped you anticipate those challenges and develop strategies to overcome them?
That's a great point. By taking a proactive approach and thinking through potential problems beforehand, you can significantly increase your chances of success and minimize the impact of any setbacks.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a reactive mindset to a proactive one, and that's a valuable skill to have in any area of life.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored the intricacies of PFMEA from its historical roots to its modern applications, its benefits, and its limitations. We've discussed the importance of software training and collaboration, and most importantly, we've emphasized the need to think critically and go beyond just the numbers.
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to think differently about how you approach problems and manage risks. Remember, anticipating and preventing problems is always better than dealing with the consequences after they occur.
So the next time you face a challenge, big or small, remember the principles of PFMEA and ask yourself, what could go wrong? How can I prevent it? And if it does happen, what can I do to minimize the impact? Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep with the deep dive.